Have you ever noticed how quiet the house can get? Sometimes the kids are grown, the phone doesn't ring as often, and you're left with more time than you ever expected. At first that silence can feel loud, almost uncomfortable, but then something shifts. That quiet starts to feel like a warm cup of tea in the early morning, peaceful, still, just you and your thoughts. And that's when it hits you. Being alone isn't what you thought it was. It's not loneliness, it's not sadness, it's space. Space to breathe, to think, to just be, you know. For years many of us were told that life is meant to be shared, partners, kids, grandkids, friends, gatherings, always being surrounded by someone, and that's beautiful. But somewhere along the way, we started believing that being alone meant something was wrong with us, that if you weren't constantly busy or surrounded, you were somehow less, broken, forgotten, left behind. But here's the truth. Being alone can be one of the most powerful, transformative seasons of your life, especially now in this chapter, not because you're giving up on people, but because you're finally learning to show up for yourself. No noise, no pretending, no one else's expectations, just you, real, raw, and ready to grow. And that growth, it doesn't happen in the crowd, it happens in the quiet. Think about a seed. It doesn't bloom out in the open, under the sun with everyone watching. It breaks open deep in the soil, in the dark, where no one can see. That's what solitude can do for you. It gives you the space to break open, to become something new, stronger, wiser, more rooted in who you truly are. You may not be climbing mountains or running marathons, but you are growing in ways that matter more than most people will ever understand. You're learning to depend on yourself. You're building resilience every time you face a quiet dinner table or a holiday without a phone call. And while the world may see that as emptiness, you're slowly realizing it's actually strength. Being alone teaches you what you're really made of. It shows you how to wake up without needing someone else to tell you you're valuable. It helps you find peace in your own presence. Instead of chasing validation from others, you're not walking through life alone because you have to. You're doing it because you're finally choosing to protect your energy, your time, and your peace. You see, when we're constantly surrounded by others, especially the wrong people, we lose parts of ourselves. We say yes when we mean no. We smile when we want to cry. We carry burdens that were never ours to begin with. And little by little, we shrink to fit into the spaces other people have carved out for us. But in solitude, something remarkable happens. You start hearing your own voice again, that little whisper inside that remembers your dreams, that recalls who you were before the world told you who you had to be. Maybe you used to paint or write, or dream about opening a tiny garden shop. Maybe you just wanted peace. A small place to call your own, with nothing but morning light and a good book. Well, here's your chance to go back to that, to rebuild, to remember. And the beauty is, you don't need anyone's permission anymore. And let's talk about clarity for a moment. How often do we ignore what we feel because we're afraid of what it means? We stay in situations that drain us because we think it's better than being alone. But when you finally give yourself that space, real, uninterrupted space, you begin to see the truth. Who supported you, who drained you, what you tolerated, what you deserve. You start seeing clearly, not just where you've been, but where you want to go. That's what solitude gives you: clarity, focus, direction. It's like cleaning a foggy mirror. For the first time in a long time, you can see your own reflection without the smudges of everyone else's opinions or expectations clouding the image. And yes, there are days when the silence feels heavy, when you wish someone would just call, show up. Remember, that's normal. You're human, but don't confuse that momentary ache with weakness. It's in those moments you build the kind of strength that can't be shaken, the kind of resilience that carries you through storms. Because here's the truth that many people won't tell you: the strongest people aren't the ones who are always surrounded. They're the ones who've learned to sit with themselves, to face their fears, their regrets, their hopes, and their healing, and still wake up the next day with love in their heart. And maybe that's you. Maybe you're waking up each morning, not because someone's calling you, or because you have a packed calendar, but because you're finally living on your own terms. You get to decide how your day looks. You get to decide what you give your energy to, and you get to decide who, if anyone, gets access to your peace. You're not alone by accident. You're alone by design. Life, or maybe even God, has cleared the space around you, not to punish you, but to prepare you. Because sometimes, the greatest blessings come when everything else is stripped away. You're learning to walk into a room without needing to be seen. You're learning to find joy in your own laughter. You're learning that your presence, your calm, grounded, powerful presence, is enough. And that, my friend, is the beginning of something beautiful. You've made it through the noise, through the expectations, through the years of being everything to everyone, and now, you've stepped into something most people spend their whole lives avoiding: being alone. But here's what they don't realize. Solitude isn't emptiness. It's the starting point of everything real, and once you settle into it, once you stop resisting it, you begin to uncover something life-changing, your true potential. There's a kind of strength that only shows up when no one else does, the kind you build on the mornings when you get up, make your coffee, stretch your back, and carry on, not because anyone's watching or applauding, but because you've learned to be dependable for yourself. That's a quiet kind of power, no fireworks, no fanfare, just you becoming stronger, little by little, day by day. You see, in solitude, your spirit sharpens without constant distraction. Your thoughts settle like stirred-up water, finally calming down. You stop reacting, and you start responding. You begin to notice the things that actually matter, the way sunlight filters through your kitchen window, the relief in a deep breath, the peace in a quiet evening walk. These are not small things, they're sacred. They are the rewards of a life that's no longer frantic, but focused. And what about mental focus? Solitude gives you back your mind, without the constant opinions of others, without the pressure to keep up or fit in. You begin to hear yourself clearly again. That voice inside you, the one that's always known what you want, what you need, who you are, it gets louder. It starts to guide you gently, but firmly, in the direction of truth. Distractions become less appealing. The things that used to pull you in, arguments, validation, gossip, the urge to people please, they begin to fade, not because you've given up on people, but because you've started choosing something far more precious: your focus, your peace, your mission. It's in solitude that you realize you've still got dreams. Maybe they've been buried under years of duty, sacrifice, caregiving, but they're still there. That novel you wanted to write, that trip you dreamed of taking, that little business idea you once scribbled in a notebook. Or maybe it's something even simpler, like waking up each day with a calm heart and a clear mind. That's a dream worth chasing too. And when you remove the noise, when you stop needing someone else to approve of your life, you suddenly get very clear on what you want it to look like. That's mental freedom. That's what solitude gives you. But here's the beautiful twist. Being alone doesn't just sharpen your mind, it toughens your spirit. You stop waiting for someone to come rescue you. You realize you were never helpless in the first place. You've been through heartbreak, you've seen betrayal, you've weathered disappointments and grief, and long nights where you questioned your worth. And yet, look at you now, still here, still standing, maybe even stronger than before. This isn't just survival. This is transformation, and it happens quietly. Nobody sees the hours you spend sorting your thoughts. Nobody sees the way you talk to yourself kindly when you're feeling low. Nobody sees the little promises you keep, to drink more water, to go for a walk, to read that book you've been meaning to. But those small acts, they build something unshakable. They build you. You've likely spent most of your life taking care of everyone else, putting yourself last, making sure others had what they needed, even when it cost you your own peace. That's admirable. But now, this season, this one's for you. Not selfishly, not angrily, but intentionally, because you've earned it. And maybe you're wondering, what if I get used to being alone? What if I stop needing others so much? My friend, that's not something to fear, that's something to celebrate. Because when you are whole by yourself, any relationship you enter becomes a choice, not a lifeline. You're no longer looking to be rescued, you're simply choosing to walk with people who honor your path, not distract you from it. You don't need a crowd to feel important. You don't need a busy calendar to feel purposeful. Your value isn't in how many people surround you, but in how deeply you've learned to be okay with yourself. And once you start building that mental toughness, you notice it everywhere. You notice how little things don't rattle you like they used to, how you handle stress with a deeper breath instead of a sharp tongue, how you respond to disappointment with grace, not desperation. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. You no longer beg for clarity from those who confuse you. You no longer explain your peace to people who live in chaos. You no longer need to be needed. You're not here to be everyone's emergency contact. You're here to live a meaningful life, your life. And if some people drift away, that's okay. Not everyone is meant to walk this path with you, and the ones who are, they'll respect your quiet. They'll admire your growth. They'll meet you in your strength, not your suffering. So don't shrink to fit someone else's comfort. Don't dull your shine to keep someone else from feeling small. And don't apologize for stepping away from anything or anyone that pulls you out of alignment with who you're becoming. This is your time to build quietly, intentionally, powerfully. Because when the world is noisy and the path feels lonely, that's when you know you're getting closer to something real. Somewhere along the way, you realize this season of solitude isn't just a pause between relationships or an in-between phase. It's a sacred process, one that's helping you rediscover the parts of yourself that were forgotten, buried under years of responsibilities, obligations, and noise. You're not just learning to live alone, you're learning to live fully with yourself. And there's something remarkable about that. Because the more time you spend in your own company, the more clearly you begin to see the masks come off. The need to impress fades. You stop performing and start listening to your heart, your gut, your dreams. You begin to understand what truly fills you and what quietly drains you. That's self-discovery. It's not always dramatic or sudden. Sometimes it looks like sitting in your chair and staring out the window, realizing that for the first time in a long time, your breath feels unforced. Sometimes it sounds like silence, but inside, there's a conversation happening between who you were, who you are, and who you're becoming. You start asking deeper questions, not who likes me, but do I even like who I've become? Not what should I do today to stay busy, but what does my soul actually need right now? And these questions, they're not easy, but they're real, and they lead to answers. You can't find it in the noise of other people's lives. When you're alone, you stop mimicking the habits of others. You no longer follow routines just because that's what everyone does. You don't need to dress a certain way, speak a certain way, or believe a certain thing just to feel accepted. You begin to unlearn the false definitions of success, happiness, and even love that you were taught to chase. Instead, you define those things for yourself. Maybe success now means peace of mind. Maybe happiness looks like a garden, a book, a handwritten letter. Maybe love is no longer about sacrifice, but about shared peace, shared growth. The old version of you might have been afraid to be alone, but the new you, the you that's emerging from the quiet, you're starting to understand that being alone isn't something to survive, it's something to embrace. And what a powerful thing that is, choosing yourself, not out of bitterness, not out of resentment, but out of love. For too long, you may have waited for someone else to choose you, to see you, to understand you. But now, you've become the one who sees yourself. You've become the one who listens. You've become the one who shows up. That's not loneliness, that's wholeness. And once you taste that kind of wholeness, you stop settling. You stop chasing people who treat your presence like it's optional. You stop over-explaining your worth to those who don't even value themselves. You let go of those old, tiring cycles that kept you running in circles, hoping, waiting, shrinking. Now you stand, calm, grounded, self-respecting, and from that place, you live differently. You move differently. You begin to make choices that don't just look good on the outside, but feel right on the inside. You prioritize your health, not because someone told you to, but because you want to feel good. You protect your sleep, your space, your peace, because they're no longer optional, they're sacred. You pray, or meditate, or walk in the early morning, because those quiet moments are where you connect with something bigger than yourself, where the answers come not with a bang, but with a whisper, where you feel grounded, even when life feels uncertain. You're no longer asking for permission to rest, to say no, to take your time. You're giving yourself what others couldn't. And in doing so, you begin to heal, not just from what was done to you, but from what you did to yourself in trying to be everything to everyone. Let's not pretend this path is always easy. It's not. Growth rarely is. There will still be days when the silence feels too loud, when the bed feels too big, when the phone is too quiet. But even in those moments, you're not backsliding. You're just stretching into a new shape, becoming someone stronger, more centered, more whole. And when you walk through those harder days without breaking, when you soothe your own heart, cook your own meal, give yourself grace, you realize something. You've stopped waiting to be saved. You've already started saving yourself. This kind of independence isn't cold. It's not distant. It's not bitter. It's loving. It's protective. It's wise. It's what happens when you learn that your energy is sacred, that not everyone deserves access to it, that your time here is too precious to spend convincing anyone of your worth. So instead of chasing connection, you attract it. The right people will come, and when they do, you won't need to lose yourself to keep them, because you'll already know who you are, and you'll already know that being alone isn't the worst thing. It was the beginning of everything. If you've made it this far, I want you to pause and really let this sink in. The version of you that exists today has already survived things you once thought would break you, and yet here you are. Not only standing, but evolving, becoming wiser, becoming more grounded, becoming you. That's the quiet miracle of solitude. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens in those unseen moments, the mornings you choose peace over panic, the nights you cry and then wipe your own tears, not because someone told you to be strong, but because you've learned you already are. The afternoons you sit in silence and feel no rush to fill the space. Because now, silence is not something to escape from, it's where your spirit breathes. You're no longer trying to prove your worth by staying in spaces that drain you. You're no longer waiting for people to change, or come back, or finally understand what you gave. That part of your life is over. You've turned the page. Now it's about protecting your peace, honoring your journey, and choosing yourself without apology. Because here's the truth that so many people miss. Being alone by choice is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect there is. It says, I will not settle. It says, I deserve to be seen and loved fully, even if that means I have to walk alone until the right people come. It says, I am enough, even without applause or company. You're no longer afraid of the quiet. In fact, you've made peace with it. You've built a life where your own presence is your sanctuary. And when that happens, when you no longer feel the need to explain yourself, to chase approval, to shrink for someone else's comfort, you're free. That freedom opens doors that once seemed closed. It helps you reconnect with old passions or discover new ones. It lets you pour into your health, your routines, your rest, your joy. You begin to treat your time like gold, your energy like treasure, and your heart like a sacred garden. No one gets to trample through it, unless they come with care. You begin to live life on purpose, and that doesn't always mean big, flashy changes. Sometimes it means taking a walk every evening, just because it clears your head, or saying no to a call when you need rest, or starting a new project that brings you joy, even if no one else sees it. Those choices may seem small, but they are the bricks that build a solid, beautiful life. And when people look at you and ask, "Where have you been?" you can smile gently and proudly and say, "I was building in silence," because the world doesn't always clap for discipline. It doesn't always recognize quiet strength, but you will know. You will know what it took to get here, and you will carry that strength like armor. You've outgrown the need to be understood by everyone. Now you understand yourself. You know what makes you feel whole. You know what steals your peace. And you know you will never again dim your light just to make someone else comfortable in your presence. You've stopped asking for closure from people who gave you chaos. You've stopped holding the door open for those who left you waiting. You've stopped offering explanations for your boundaries, and in doing that, you've stepped into the most important relationship of your life, the one you have with yourself. And yes, that can be scary. It can feel unfamiliar, especially if you've spent most of your life serving, giving, sacrificing. But just because something feels unfamiliar doesn't mean it's wrong. It might just mean you're growing, healing, coming home to yourself. This chapter you're in, it's not the end. It's the beginning of a version of you that is less apologetic, more intentional, and fully alive. You've learned how to sit still and listen. You've learned how to create without performing. You've learned how to love yourself, not because someone told you to, but because you finally remembered how. And when the right people do show up, because they will, they'll find you whole, not waiting, not broken, not desperate to be saved, but rooted, at peace. They'll have to rise to meet you, not pull you down to meet them. So choose yourself, again and again, even when it's quiet, even when it's hard, even when you wonder if anyone notices. Because the truth is, you notice, and that's enough. You've walked through fire, and it refined you, not ruined you. You've sat in silence, and it revealed your strength, not your weakness. You've embraced solitude, and it brought you home, not into exile. So here's to the quiet warriors, the ones who heal in silence, the ones who rise alone, the ones who no longer wait for someone to rescue them, because they've already started rescuing themselves. If this message speaks to your soul, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Let someone else know they're not alone in being alone. And if you found comfort or clarity in this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel, Strong Elderly Life, for more content made just for you, because your best years aren't behind you, they're being built right now, in silence, in strength, in stillness. Here's to living your best life at any age, and here's to the quiet power of choosing yourself. Thank you for spending this time with me.